I always seem to have the same problem. So I spent the past 2 weeks planning a heist. I have been diving in to go really deep on the story that I'm working on, which I'm calling my Florence heist. I drafted about 25,000 words of it during NaNoWriMo. I do really like what I have. I think that it is good, and depending on the result of this, we'll definitely need edits and tweaks and stuff, but I like the base. The problem is that I'm having trouble with my characters, my main character's motivation. Kind of. I thought I knew it, but now I'm second guessing myself. What makes it worse is that I am planning for this to be a 3-book series, and so I'm wondering, do I have to outline the entire series right now before I write the first book? Because I really don't want to do that. And there are a lot of things that I can do with these characters, a lot of, especially the main character, a lot of problems that she has that I do think can be fixed over the course of 3 books. My idea was to do sort of a morality type arc for the first book, a worldview type arc for the second book. Anyway, that's story grid thinking, and I've been in a space where I'm just confused, and anyways, I found Rachel Stephen, and I'm hoping she can help me. Has a bunch of videos on Plot Embryo, which is also the same thing as Dan Harmon's Story Circle. Same thing. It took me a while to figure that out. Dan Harmon and Plot Embryo. Same. Rachel Stephen kind of took it and made a bunch of videos on it and kind of turned it into her own little methodology, or like, not her own, but you know, she has a course, I don't know, something like that. What I am doing today is I am going to go through the method of creating a plot embryo. That involves apparently drawing a lot of circles. Now, I have used numerous objects to try to trace my circle on. Here's the latest one. I don't even know what this is. It's a little nail, potentially. And I'm trying to draw my circles. So I have one more circle left to draw. I'm just copying how Rachel does it because, oh dear. You know, I went to school. There was a class in my first year of university. The first week or two, we spent learning how to draw circles freehand. I did not learn that. It's called engineering graphics. It was terrible, but there we go. I have my circles. And I'm going to draw my straight line across. So, the idea with the plot embryo, it has a circle. And this circle, theoretically, has 8 points if I draw them. So, hold on, give me a second. Let me draw. Oh, no. Damn it, I wasn't supposed to do that. Okay, well. So, it has 8 points. So, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's like 8 steps in Dan Harmon's Story Circle. So, what's really cool about this is that the circle is like a visual representation of your story. So it can be divided into quadrants or halves or something. So you have your top half here, and this is supposed to be the familiar world, and you have your bottom half here, and this is supposed to be the unfamiliar world or the new situation or stasis and chaos or something like that. So luckily for me, I already know what these are. So my ordinary world is like university student traveling for summer. And then the bottom half is part of a heist crew. Now, this side, this is what's really interesting about Plot Embryo, is this side is your ignorance, and this side is your enlightenment. And no, I did that wrong. Damn it. Shit, okay. I put them on the wrong side. Okay, ignorance and enlightenment. Beautiful, beautiful. Messy, but you know, there we go. And then we go and we put in our 8 steps. So step 1 is you. So that is the character. I don't know where to write this. I'll just write it here. You. That is the character like in their ordinary world. And then we have need. So that's what they need. Then we have go, which is basically like crossing the threshold in hero's journey. Then we have search. Search is adapting to the unfamiliar situation. Find is the protagonist finds what they wanted. They find it and it's a false win. 6 is take. They pay a price for achieving their goal. So they take what they found, they try to leave, and they pay a price. So I'm going to put take. In there, 7 is the protagonist goes back to where they started. So that is return. And then 8 is their change. The protagonist is now changed or is capable of change. So there we go. I have labeled all of the points on my plot embryo. And so now I just have to go fill them in, question mark. So I'm gonna go back, read more of Rachel Stevens' stuff real quick. See you in a moment. Okay, so here's my plot embryo. I've spent an hour today watching Rachel Stevens' StoryFix video on Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald, and I just pulled it up so I can kind of reference it for what to do. And so now I'm going to try to figure out you. But here's the problem. I have a character, a main character, who is the newbie to this heist. And she is not in the stealing world. The whole point of the story is that she is the outsider who is kind of dragged in. She describes it as a rip current. She gets pulled into this story, and then she has to start working for it, and then everyone's going towards this goal, and I know the conflicts and everything for that goal. So I know what they want collectively. What I'm having a hard time figuring out is why she actually is doing this and didn't just say, like, I'm going home. Bye. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm going home. Which I think is what a lot of people would do. And I had some ideas for why she did that, but I don't know if I'm happy with them because they just kind of get dropped eventually, and I'm confused. There's a lot of things in my head, and I'm like, I don't know if that's okay. So what I did was I watched all of her 5 videos, and she had some thoughts on how to reverse engineer. So if you have your conflict and your effect, and you know basically what the character's story is going to be, you can kind of take that and then work backwards and be like, so why would someone do those things? What would they want that would make them do the things that they're going to do in this story? So for my character, little Lena, I am going to do that. Oh, this is so problematic. So I have questions here. Why would Lena go with Macy? What would she want that would make her go along with this plan and start actively participating in the plan? What would she want, or what did she fear or hate that would make her go along with this plan? So I'm going to sit here, outline that, brainstorm that for a little bit, and see what happens. Okay, so I just brainstormed like a mad woman, and I found the question, what is her greatest fear or hate, to actually be the most helpful here versus what does she want more than anything. Because I know the goal of the story, the whole crew has the same goal. It kind of evolves like a little bit, like a little bit. It kind of evolves a little bit over the whole time. But her like main motivation, I think, works really well as a fear. So what I did was I did double check this. You can have multiple motivations for a character, obviously. And so what I end up giving her is 2 motivations. So basically, there's a lot of layers to her first motivation. So her first motivation is she's afraid of failing out of school, of not being the best, of not getting positions in orchestras, that kind of thing. She's a violin player. It ends up being a MacGuffin, the violin. It's very exciting. And so then I asked, so why is she afraid of failing out of school, of not being the best, blah, blah, blah. The answer to that is she's afraid of failing her parents and disappointing their expectations in her. And then I said, why? And this is kind of the stakes part of the motivation, what Rachel Stevens calls stakes. And it's because, you know, they grew up struggling, they made a lot of sacrifices so she could exceed, that kind of classic thing that I think a lot of people experience. You know, she has memories of her winning competitions, making them very happy and being some of the best days when they were having really hard days. And they taught her how hard it was to succeed, and they want her not to struggle like they did. You know, kind of classic, sort of, she's from an immigrant family, so there you go. But at the same time, so that's that's one motivation, but she has an equally strong motivation that's kind of conflicting, and she's afraid of not being able to live her life the way she wants to. And to avoid spoilers, it does go into more detail there, but like, I know what that is. I'm just gonna say what's the word? the vague version for this video. And so she has this dichotomy of like wanting to please, but also wanting to live her own life. Again, when you're, as someone who's 25 years old, like this is, I feel like this is a very common theme, kind of universal, which is great. That's what you want for a story. So I guess I fill in you now. I like this. So one of the problems that I was having, and one of the things that I originally thought might work, was one lesson that she could learn was not to be selfish, you know, that like success doesn't mean anything unless you have people with you. And she kind of is doing that, but with this changed motivation that I got through the brainstorming, it's more that she is doing it like she still wants these things, but she wants them to please her parents, and she wants that for someone else. So that I think makes her a lot more likable and relatable than just like cutthroat, I want to be the best violin player in the world. That angle doesn't really work for the story, considering there's 3 books where she has to be involved in a heist and she's not going to be playing violin very much. So that motivation, while perfectly valid, I think, did not work here. But this one works now. So there we go. She's a violin university student and she wants to live life a certain way, do certain things, but at the same time she's dealing with all of this pressure, and she's running a cheating scheme to be sure that she comes top in everything at her violin school or whatever it is, as well as to ease the financial burden on her parents because they have a lot of kids. So there we go. That is you. Now we're into need. So need is kind of the inciting incident. It's okay, so I guess go is like crossing the threshold. So then, wait, I have to research what is need. Hold on 1 second. Need. The protagonist wants something. Something happens that sparks a powerful need or want within your protagonist. The desire to achieve this goal must be strong enough to justify step 3. Oh, I like this website blog that I'm using also has an example. So it says Story Circle Beats. You is Harry is living a lonely life on Privet Drive for Harry Potter. Harry's arc, he's friendless and powerless. Need, Harry learns he's a wizard. This is Harry's chance at freedom and power. Okay, let me try writing this. So there's literally a desk right beside me. I don't know why I'm not using it. So Lena runs into Maisie at the airport when Maisie asks her to come, you know, it's basically be part of the heist group, even though that's not what they're doing at this point. It represents an opportunity or possibility of a whole other existence, and kind of taps into that deepest motivation of hers, or like it is kind of taking a step away from that fear of not being able to live the life the way she wants. So then go. So now we're crossing the threshold. So go is entering the unfamiliar situation. So in the unfamiliar situation, it's unfamiliar, but like she's still holding on to this, is still on the ignorant side. So what I came up with while I was brainstorming is that, what's the word? She will fulfill the role this crew wants so long as she can use the whole crew thing to kind of advance her violin career. So I'm gonna write that part down next. Okay, so I'm at the search, find, take part. I always knew this was gonna be the hardest part, but goodness gracious, I'm having trouble. So I know what happens when she goes. I know what position she takes. That's all good. I know the search and the find I'm having trouble with. So it could go either way, right? Like it could go where she finds something from either motivation. So it could go, she gets like, because she's interning for something that has to do with violins as an inside man. So it could be like she's promoted to something in that. Or it could be that she kind of gets that goal of like living exactly how she wants to, free from all of those expectations, yada, yada, yada. Again, it's a little more concrete than that, but whatever. I don't think that the orchestra one would work because it doesn't really lead to any cause and effect. Like, it would be like, oh, she gets her orchestra thing, and then we have the big midpoint where we figure out the villain's motivation and everybody's life is in danger. So, yeah, no. Just saying it out loud, that's not gonna work. What does she do in Fantastic Beasts? He realizes he has to get help. He orchestrates a new plan to capture the beast, apologizes to the teams, takes a risk, and trusts them. That's the take. So like her find is like she's living free from this expectation. She's a part of the crew and she has this violence and she's pleased her parents. That's the thing. That's it. Woohoo! All the things done! Woohoo! She's living her best life. Everything is happening. She's getting both motivation to desire things at the same time. Woo! Ha! Ha! Yay! Okay. And then take. So the take is she pays the price, which is she learns that this world is dangerous. So let me write that out, and then the return and the change I think I got. So let's finish this off. I think I've done it. So I have the take, which is basically the stakes of the heist are raised way up, and that's the midpoint, and it's freaking me out a little bit that the midpoint is kind of like at this part of the circle, but I also don't know if these segments are supposed to correspond to exact acts. Hold on. I'm very confused. Give me a moment. Why does hers look... How did she make hers look like that? You need go search. She has find like right at the bottom here, like the middle, like the midpoint. So it's kind of halfway between this, and I have my find all on my enlightened side, but I think find is meant to be kind of like down the middle of it almost. So if we just skirt that over, yes. So if we moved this to here, and we moved this to there, and we scooched it a little bit around so it was underneath it properly, this would be great. Maybe I'll do a clean copy at some point later tonight or something. So I'm gonna redo this, but overall, that was helpful. Okay, I guess what I have to separate is that even though it's divided into 4 quadrants, these are not necessarily equal lengths of an act, if that makes sense. Because I'm reading this great example here of Harry Potter, and it has find being Harry joins the Quidditch team, take being Harry meets Voldemort, and return being Harry escapes danger and the school year ends, and change being Harry delights and plans to mess with Dudley. And like, don't get me wrong, all that sounds right. If you like map the distance between Harry joining the Quidditch team and Harry meeting Voldemort, it's like this. And if you map the distance between Harry meets Voldemort and Harry escapes danger and end of school year, it's like this, like 2 chapters. So whereas this is like maybe 5, 6 chapters. So I don't think they're meant to be even. It's just meant to be like the character's journey. So now I think the thing is, it might be a good idea to do multiple plot embryos, because I think you are supposed to use multiple plot embryos for different like story threads and parts of the story. So I'm going to research that, but I think this is enough for now. Let's do a little bit of a recap here on like why I liked this, why I don't like this. Pros and cons. We love the pros and cons and what value it had for me. So I will say that the whole exercise that I just did here really helped me with that character arc, because I was struggling with the character arc and it was like I had the pieces and they weren't quite together, and this feels much better than what I was leaning to earlier. And now I do have to go back to my outline like with these new story elements and tweak it and make it better. But this makes sense to me. This makes a lot of sense to me. It makes Lena a more sympathetic character. It brings together different elements and it set things up really well for the second book, which is what I would like to do. Cons, yeah, it's a little bit confusing in terms of like how this aligns to acts, but I don't think it's supposed to. I also still find the find and the take to be a little bit ambiguous, those steps. Because finding what they want, like the overall goal of this story, let's say, is to steal a violin, which it is. And, but she doesn't find what she wants being the violin at this part. She does that like at the end right over here. So the find is more of like an internal thing, I think. Another interesting thing is that if I look at Rachel Stevens' plot embryo for Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, she has Newt like learn his goal, realizing that he does need help. He is like forced into asking for help at the find part, and that's kind of the theme. That's our overall theme here. Things like Save the Cat and Anatomy of Story, they usually have the character learn the theme or overcome their need or whatever it is towards the end of the story and not necessarily at like the midpoint of the story. I think it can happen sometimes at the midpoint. Maybe it's meant to be in... Originally, I thought that this was meant to be at the midpoint. I think it maybe doesn't matter exactly where it happens, but I am kind of confused about just like the pace, the placement of where they think these things should be. And maybe I can do some more research into that. But like, other than that, cons, I don't really have any. Like, I really like the symmetry we have here. I don't like that I had to draw it on paper because I'm not very neat or good at drawing things. But beyond that, like, that's a me problem. That's not a plot embryo problem. I really like this. This is good. I'm beautiful. You might see another video of me doing multiple versions of these for different elements of my story. I'm going to try to find some information on how you're maybe meant to do that, because this is kind of the main character's arc, but I'm also setting up things for a full series, right? So I have a couple of relationships that need to be worked out. I have a sort of subplot that's going on here. Goodness gracious. No, I should probably plot the whole 3-book plot, shouldn't I? I don't wanna, but I should. We'll see. To be continued, except not really. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you like this kind of video generally, you could subscribe if you wanted to. And thank you so much for watching. I'm gonna go eat a Kit Kat now.